So when you
Yes.
opened it up,
Yeah.
it would then you'd press a button and it would stop spinning the real disc. You'd pop out the real disc and you'd put in a copy.
That's it.
And then you'd start it up. Yeah, that was how
You
played.
You played copied games, Kerry?
So oh yeah.
J'accuse.
As I'm like talking to them, I glance over at the people that I interrupted, and it was IGN. And I'm just like, oh, I'm such a jerk. So of all the people to like be on the wrong foot with,
that's awesome.
They wrote a review about that. They said, we saw Russ, we didn't like it.
right, exactly.
7 out of 10.
We didn't. Yeah. Wait, you never played Chrono Trigger?
No. Well, okay. Geez. I played a little bit of it. I played the intro.
You're with a bunch of heathens, including myself.
I know.
Oh my goodness. I could just buy the Switch version, right?
Yeah.
I was also going to Switch version while you guys were ranting.
Yeah.
It's coming on Friday.
Nice.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the NerdNest podcast. I'm Bill, and I'm joined today by Carrie, Russ, and Rich, and we're going to be talking about a whole bunch of stuff today. But we're going to start off with the MSI Claw, which, if I remember correctly, I think we talked about a little bit last episode. But what Russ wasn't here, and Russ hadn't had hands-on with it yet, but he just got back from CES. Before we talk about the Claw, Russ, how was your trip, man?
It was good. You know, I went last year as well, so this is not my first rodeo, but man, 135,000 people were there. Like, it's just kind of crazy how many people were there. I mean, the whole COVID thing's just kind of, gone now, like, but still, it freaks me out a little bit when I see that many people in one spot. And so that was kind of a unique experience, but it was awesome. Like, definitely more fruitful this time around than last year. Last year was just kind of me forcing my way into booths and like shaking hands and introducing myself. This time it was a little bit different. People knew who I was ahead of time. And I had like appointments scheduled with a lot of the bigger companies. And so a lot of fun. I did walk in on one meeting on accident. So I was trying to find Hyperkin because they have that like Sega Genesis controller thing that they've been working on. It's basically a Sega Nomad. And so I go into their place, and it's like this private, it's like a hotel room in the Venetian, I think. And so there's like a lady at the front, and she's like, oh, I think you need an appointment. And I I don't know. I didn't really believe her. I was like, it's Hyperkin. Like, why would they need appointments?
Let me through, lady.
Do you know who I am?
So I just kind of like, okay, thank you for the information. And then I just kind of walked around her and went anyway. And so I open up this room, and I'm a rule follower, right? So I'm already a little nervous about this. So I open up the door to the room, and they're like mid-interview with a group of people. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry and stuff. But they were really cool and accommodating, and they did the whole spiel with me. And then as I'm like talking to them, I glance over at the people that I interrupted, and it was IGN. And I'm just like, oh, I'm such a jerk. So of all the people to like be on the wrong foot with, but other than that, it was great. Everything else was pre-scheduled and good. But yeah, it was a great time.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
They wrote a review about that. They said, we saw Russ, we didn't like it.
Right, exactly.
7 out of 10.
We didn't.
Okay, so you got hands-on with the MSI Claw, the worst named thing in 2024, I'm sure. What do you think of it after having hands-on time with it?
Yeah, so I'm kind of skeptical guy, and then also I'm very big on controls and whatnot. So obviously, number one, it was not a final review sample, like it's like not ready for retail. So I kind of had to take everything in stride, but it feels a lot like an ROG Ally, at least when you pick it up. And it's really well balanced. Like, I thought it was lighter than the Ally, but they say it's actually 60 grams heavier. So it's one of those things where the numbers are different than the expectation, which is kind of unique. And then the controls themselves, every little bit of it is different than the ROG Ally. And so that was really unique to me.
Oh,
you look at it on paper and you're like, oh, this is just the same thing. But the buttons feel different. The D-pad feels different. Analog sticks are different. Triggers are different. Like, everything feels different on that. And so it's something that's going to require a little bit of nuance to describe, I think, when I do the review on it. But yeah, the triggers are a little bit more shallow. The D-pad doesn't click, although it does have that same kind of feel to it. And then the face buttons are like tighter in the shell, more like a Steam Deck's button. So I like that a lot. And the analog sticks are like lighter on the thumbs, like they're kind of flicky feeling. I'm not sure if I like that or not. It felt a little bit cheaper than like on the Ally or the Steam Deck. But yeah, overall, I thought it was impressive. gameplay and stuff like that, like it's just so hard to figure that out because they only let you play one game, and then even then it's like so buggy just because everything's so new. The software experience, like actually like bringing up the menus and stuff like that, exactly like the ROG Ally. Like you press the left one, it'll bring up the side menu, press the right one, it'll bring up the full menu. Like all that was very similar, but still very early as well. So
do you feel like what do we know the price of this thing? I can't remember off the top of my head.
7 and 8. Yeah.
It's like
758. Yep.
Yeah.
Do you guys think that this thing can compete with the ROG Ally coming in at the? Isn't the Ally 700 and then 750, right?
So yeah, this is where the price is a little bit confusing because 700 is for the base model MSI Claw, which is more like, well, we don't know what it's like, but the one that a lot of people are talking about are the 750 model, the Core Ultra 7 155H. So it's really, to compare it to the ROG Ally, it starts at 749. Compare that to the ROG Ally at 699.
Right. So it's very similar in price, but yeah, I when I was holding it, I was like, well, I got an Ally already, you know, like I didn't have that huge, like I have to get rid of my Ally and get this instead, you know. Some of those are nitpick things for me, like it's a black device and smudgy, and so the plastics on it are very concerning to me. It's like a 1X player in that regard, where it's like just kind of got that generic black smudgy feel to it. So a little nitpicky things for me, but yeah, I didn't feel like it was going to be a huge like improvement. There was a couple things I think in terms of cooling and stuff that looked pretty interesting, but it's all going to come down to that chipset and what it can do in terms of performance and battery life, and that was definitely not a place where I could test any of that stuff. So
what'd you think of the handle, the grip?
It's fine. It was unique. Like, so it's more rounded feeling. Like it's just kind of got a softer feel when you hold it, as opposed to the hard edges on the Ally, which even though it is a little bit sharp on the Ally, I still kind of got used to it. The only thing I don't like about the grip part is those two back buttons are not well positioned. They're basically directly in the way of my middle finger. And then also they're so low down that they kind of cramp like these two fingers too. And so I like, as I'm holding it, it's like this is in the way, and then these two are like being squished at the bottom. And so I think that the Ally is a more comfortable grip compared to the two.
That's interesting, because I felt like, I think it was Dave 2D said that he felt like it was better because of the thicker, rounder grips. And I don't remember who it was, but somebody said they were pointing out that the back buttons on the ROG Ally are only really actuate when you push them a certain way,
right?
And then the ones on the Claw, like they're like you can activate them no matter which way, so you get a lot of extra inputs that you didn't mean to do.
Right. Yeah, you know, I generally don't use it on the ROG Ally, those back buttons. And you're right, you kind of have to push them down, you know, like when you push down on them. And for that one, it's a multi-touch. Like you press that and something else in order to activate it. And so I like it that way with the Ally. If the MSI doesn't have that, I will probably just disable them altogether, because yeah, there's something that I felt like I was going to be pressing all the time.
And they have like, these ones have like macro functionality, so you can it's Hadoukenable. As you like to say, you can configure it ahead of time to automatically do certain moves. Do any of you guys use that kind of, like, Carrie, do you ever bother with macro functions when you're playing games?
No, I don't. But it probably just takes a certain mindset of what someone's trying to do. It typically, the only thing I can find in my head is someone that is trying to game a system in some way, or trying to the most innocent use case of this is to like accelerate grinding on a game. Like if they're playing an RPG and they like do this action, do this action, do this action, you know, like they're just gonna like push that button, look away, come back, push that button, and it's like a grind helper. Is what I would see it as, like people that don't mind grinding in games but kind of do, but still want to just go through the motions of it. So that's like the most innocent thing I can see with those. But like you always see them. And like I have like the King Kong 3 controller that I'm going through right now, and it has that, and it has some other stuff. But no, I don't really see much of a point to like press a button, do like 50 actions or whatever, however much memory it can hold. I don't know. It's a very specific use case.
Yeah, I never use that stuff. What about you, Rich?
No, but I have this is not the same, but back in Counter-Strike, I would bind keys to do certain buy operations, right? Like when this key is to buy the M4, that key is to buy the AK, that sort of thing. But you can do that in the console, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was it.
Well, the Intel chipset competing with AMD in the handheld space, I think that's nothing but a good thing. Just getting more competition out there, but I just don't see myself personally. I cannot see myself getting excited about the idea of this device.
You know what was really interesting? You bringing up the Intel thing is that every booth had like powered by Intel on their stuff, like everywhere. Like it was just like Intel woke up and like, you know what? Here's a lot of money, and I want you not to talk about AMD anymore. Like it was only the Minis Forum booth was the only one that I saw where they were actively talking about AMD and Ryzen chips. Everyone else, full Intel for everything. Like there must have been some sort of financial incentive, because AMD was just like non-existent other than the AMD booth and then Minis Forum. Like everyone else, just Intel for everything. It was crazy.
That's interesting.
Do you think we'll see more Intel handhelds this year?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, given the fact that we're going to see 1 million handhelds, I'm assuming some will be Intel.
Yeah, for sure. It's like just the SKU happy side of things, where it's like, well, if we can sell like 1,000 units, we'll make like whatever money we're going to make, and who cares type of mentality. Yeah, there's still Intel fans. I don't think it's going to succeed, only just because I know what it's going to do. And there's a hunger for people that want there's people that want 2x Steam Deck, and no one's getting that. No one's getting 2x Steam Deck where the Steam Deck is, right? At 15 watt. No one's getting that. So there's just expectation of what they want, and they're not going to get it.
That's fair. Well, speaking of, you brought up the Steam Deck, we've got the Steam Deck Lite, or better known as the AYANeo Next Lite, which, so, boy, first off, I thought it was super ridiculous for them to say, with SteamOS, right? And it's not SteamOS, it's Hollow ISO. That is kind of, I don't know, do you feel like that's a translation thing, or is that...
I've been in it so long that when I saw it, I was like, that's not SteamOS. I was like, that'd be awesome if it was. But no, I get what you're saying, but this is like a cultural thing that has been happening for a while. I'll give you an example. When the GPD Win 1 came out in 2016, when that had an Indiegogo, the advertising for it was, this machine is worth $800, but we're going to sell it to you for $300. And I'm like, no one buys that crap. Like, it's $300. It's not discounted $500 and it's wow, what a deal. It's a $300 machine and you're selling it for $300.
Right.
Don't say that crap. And there was always that there's like this cultural difference of like, there's a lot of cultural differences that happen over there that there's just a big difference. For instance, like how they share stuff and like copyright and all that other stuff. There's a difference of how they look at that type of stuff, where they'll just like take someone's stuff and repost it, and that isn't frowned upon as much as it over here. So there's a lot of cultural differences, and then there's like this machismo that they have. That's kind of weird. It's like they're just puffing their chest up for like no one. It's like those jokes where it's like, it's like me, and then this dude is like just acting all out of whack, like just out of character. They'll just puff up their chest and just talk about how big they are or whatever. It's very, very from our point of view, it comes off as defensive and weak. But for them, I don't know, it's weird. There's just lots of little cultural differences that I've noticed over like the decade. And there's just some things that you just have to like kind of read between the lines after looking at it for so long.
And I think AYANeo has always been prone to that. They've always, like, their marketing has always just been a little bit skewed. Like if you look at any of their like promotions and they're trying something new, the translations of what they're talking about, the way that you can fondle the device or however they describe it and stuff, like the translation's always off. And they take a lot of things and like the what was the AYANeo slide that just came out, right? Carrie kind of liked the slide up thing, but I hated the slide up screen.
Oh yeah,
and they promote it as being like a floating thing, and I'm like, this thing just feels weak, you know. And so they're like, oh, it's a floating design, and I'm like, they always have a way of skewing it. That's how AYANeo is. And you know, Ambernick released a handheld PC, their only one that they ever released, and that was a couple of years ago, the Win 600. And in that, they also said it came with SteamOS, but it wasn't. It was Hollow ISO. So it's not the first time I've seen that. And yeah, like with Carrie, the first time I heard it, I was like, that's not the real thing.
Yeah, the video that I put out, I was like, I didn't think it was going to be SteamOS because Valve would have said something at the same time. Like they would have also said, hey, look at what we've done. We've partnered with these guys. I just feel like it's very false. I feel like they're just freaking liars for calling it SteamOS, and that drives me kind of crazy.
Russ,
that's what they ended up doing. Huh?
I had it. I auctioned mine off for charity.
Okay.
That shows you how much I loved it.
Yeah, I mean, this was not great, but I mean, like, it's literally just reselling. I guess there might be, from my point of view, it's just like old stock of what they have and what they have like lying around, and they're just trying to sell off what they have, which is fine, right? Like, okay, great. You know, if it's 300 or whatever. For me, I think the price really needs to be $200 for what they're selling. Because if you look at it through the lens of $200, at least emulation wise, it's kind of a banger. At $300, you're super close to a Steam Deck, and a Steam Deck's going to be 2 times more performant than that, and that's a huge difference in performance, right? Like gigantic. Right. So it's like someone's gonna feel burned at $300, where at $200, I think that there's a mindset that you can be in where you're like, well, if I was into emulation and other stuff, and well, it's only half, but whatever. I don't know. 300's a bit of an ask. I'm sure they'll sell some, but yeah, it's a weird. It's fine for, like, you look at what I still have to review it. It's over there and I have to get it done. Is the their retro Nux that they're making, which are cute. They're cute little devices, and you see a bunch of different other companies selling AMD 5700U chips. There seems to, like, this happens periodically in China where I've seen, like, there's people that have sent me images from China where they're like, look at this, and they have trays and trays of Nintendo DS chips. And I'm just like, wow, cool. And it's like, yeah, we got millions of them. And they're like cheap, and we want to make, DS clones. And I'm like, all right, that sounds cool. I'm glad that you got them for something. You can be able to, like, repurpose them. That's awesome. So there's like different companies. There's one company that I want to buy their thing. They're actually making NASs. So 8-bay NASs with a 5700U and other stuff, which is a really nice chip. And if the only thing that worries me is that the whole SATA stuff and the bridging and all that other stuff, when I have a NAS, I want to make sure that this is like enterprise gear, enterprise tier. So whenever I'm dealing with data, I don't want to muck around with that. So that's the only thing that gets me kind of leery. But it's cool, right? So ultimately, just to package this up, is the older chips and repackaging them and reselling them. I just think that they need to be looking at it through value a little bit better.
Yeah, 200 sounds like a much better spot. The thing that pushes me away from this device is the right-hand side, is the face buttons and the stick are vertically aligned. And I hate that so much. Like, Nintendo did that for the Switch, but they had a good reason, because you take off the controller and then you hand it, and you can hand it to somebody, and like they had that gimmick where you would hold it sideways. It made sense to do it that way. And everybody copied them, and it's a terrible design choice. Like, they should not be directly above each other.
So that the AYANeo Next, the one that Carrie showed off, and the model that we're seeing with this new one, is the first design that Arthur, their CEO, like, was a part of. Because the first AYANeo design was with a different owner, and so this is the first Arthur handheld. And he always looks at, like, the looks of a handheld more, I think, than the actual feel of it. And so that's one thing about AYANeo devices; they always look amazing on paper and their marketing materials, and you can get them in the hand, and it's just like, oh, like, whose hands were on this? Because it doesn't feel like humanly comfortable. And so this is exactly the issue I had with the AYANeo Next, is that it was kind of boxy feeling, and like the bumps and stuff just don't really fit the contours of the hand as much as you might think.
Yeah. Well, I think that we're all in for disappointment when it comes to both of those devices, in my opinion. The Claw,
And the
90s
Next
marketing
Lite.
aside, and this thing. No, thank you. What were you saying, Rich?
Well, real quick, one piece of bail that I'll shoot to AYANeo is that, they changed their marketing pretty quickly. So it was SteamOS on that one page for that 2 days. And I'm sure they got backlash. But the page that you were just on, Bill, it does say Hollow ISO. I don't think I saw SteamOS on there, but I have seen them say like SteamOS like now or something to that effect. And, there are still lots of benefits to using Linux over Windows, just as, it goes both ways, right? It cuts both ways. There are drawbacks and benefits. But on there, they're featuring the benefits, of course. So like the fact that it has more stable performance or better system sleep functionality, things like that. Those things should hold true. And of course, the fact that it's not SteamOS, that, to a large degree, that has more to do with Valve, right? Like Valve is not ready yet. They're not there yet. So there's not much that Aya can do in that specific regard.
It's been a while since I tried Hollow ISO, but the last, and you guys can probably correct me if I'm wrong, but last time I tried it, it didn't have any sort of power regulation features to it. So it wasn't like giving me all the efficiency gains that you get in the Steam Deck. And so that's the one point where I thought it was disingenuous to say SteamOS, because it's not tailored for that chipset. It's tailored for the Steam chipset and the Steam Deck. And so I remember playing like Hollow ISO on the Win600, and it's just chewing through the battery because it doesn't know any better as far as like regulating and whatnot. So that is a concern of mine. And, there are other Linux distributions you could use, like Batacera, but that one also doesn't have any sort of power regulation in it. The only one that I know of, like a Linux-based, like gaming, like emulation distribution that has that is Jealous. And I'm not sure if they're getting a unit, so it's not going to work. Like it's not going to boot out of the gate. And so, yeah, I'm concerned about it. And it's funny because the $299 price point, I'm like, okay, fine, good. We're getting to a budget handheld PC. But then last night I was on Best Buy and they have the Z1 ROG Ally for $339 open box. And I'm like, wow, I would definitely spend $40 more
100%.
to get a Z1 Ally. Like the screen and all the other things you can get, the comfort, the controls, all that stuff. That's a no-brainer for me. And so I'm hoping we'll get to that point where, yes, we'll have like these budget handheld PCs, but then also we're going to have clearance stock of some of the other ones as the other companies, the bigger companies, start pulling out their new ones.
Yeah.
So we're going to be in a good spot, I think, later this year when it comes to price to performance.
Agreed.
Yeah. So, Rich, I think I was watching your video and you said that they hadn't updated Hollow ISO in quite a while, right?
Not since August. So the hope that I have is that, Aya has done a lot of work in, like you said, power regulation, right? Inside of Windows. They have built Aya Space. They have tuned their drivers and their firmware. So I'm hoping that when they say customized Hollow ISO, they're doing a lot of work in that regard. Because, like you said, it has not been updated, at least not in terms of an official release, since August 23rd. So it's been, 3.5, 4 months, a long time. So that's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah. And I don't know if Hollow ISO does get an update, and then does it, like, this is going to be a fork, right? Because it's completely like
Most likely,
they're kind of taking over. So it's a complete fork. Like they're not basing it on Hollow ISO moving forward, right?
Right. That would be my assumption at this point. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's most likely going to be a one and done type of deal. So then you're going to be in a situation where any type of updates are going to be on the user itself, and whatever cottage community support can get erected around it.
Which is that's a bad place to be in as somebody who bought a thing.
I mean, at this point, you're literally better just using, like, Chimera OS is probably one of the easier ones where it looks for device IDs and will try to like help in some way. And because it's so old, it will have support. Chimera OS does a bunch. And the nice thing about Chimera OS is that it's technically you can make it far more along than SteamOS is. So you can get the latest kernel, latest Mesa drivers. So Mesa 24 has some additions to it for RDNA and RDNA 2 that are a benefit. That wouldn't really apply to the AYANeo Next because it's Renoir, Vega. a Vega GPU. So I don't know. There's things that a Chimera OS does that I particularly like, and they go a little bit further to try to make it a little bit more open to other handhelds. But yeah, ultimately the wish is that Valve would just like do whatever they need to do to support these other things,
Right.
Because where we are right now is a hodgepodge of whatever you can get.
Yep.
I still stand by my statement that we're going to have it available this year. You know, Valve had said, look, we shipped the OLED deck, and a lot of the people who were working on getting SteamOS ready for other hardware were working on that project. So now that they're not working on that project anymore, they can shift those resources back over to working on getting SteamOS out there for everybody to install on whatever, and obviously starting with the handhelds that are already out there, whether or not they're helped by the companies that are making this stuff. All right, let's take a quick break and talk about the games that we've been playing. Russ, I know that you had said you were going to play Chrono Trigger, and then you shocked me when you messaged our little Discord that you finished it. I was surprised because I know how busy you are. Talk about that game, because I've played the intro and then I've always stopped and never really gotten very far. Convince me.
So I played through on the Odin 2. Initially, I was playing it through and that's an Android-based handheld, so I'm using Android apps, right? So initially, I was using the Drastic emulator. I decided on the Nintendo DS version. I should mention that first, and that's because it has like anime cutscenes in it that are from like the PS1 version, but the PS1 version has like long loading times. So it's kind of like the best of both worlds, and it's touchscreen friendly, so you can swap over to the touchscreen side. You can like handle your inventory by tapping on the screen, which is pretty fast actually. So that was hopeful, and so I was using that. Initially, I was using Drastic, which is like the standard like standalone DS emulator. But I found that the image quality was a little bit soft looking. Like I don't know if there's some sort of bilinear filter, something was happening, and I couldn't sharpen it the way I wanted to really crunchy pixels, you know. And so I ended up switching over to RetroArch instead. So I used RetroArch in the Melon DS emulator core. Not the most efficient core for dual screen gameplay, but the Odin's powerful enough that it's no problem. So I played through on RetroArch with the Melon DS core, Nintendo DS version, Chrono Trigger, and it was good. There were a couple times where some sort of graphical thing wouldn't render correctly, and I would have to extract my save game, load it in Drastic, play through that part, then put over my save game again into RetroArch and do that again. I had to do that about 3 or 4 times throughout the whole game. It took me about 20-25 hours to play through the whole game. So not a huge complaint, but just one thing if anyone gets stuck when they're trying to do the same method that I did. But it was great. I played through I tried to get the best ending possible. I didn't do every single side quest, so I didn't get like the ultimate ending, but I got a pretty good ending. Like everybody was saved and all that kind of stuff. It felt a lot like Mass Effect 2. I don't know if you guys ever played that one, where it's like you have to corral together a team, and like each individual team member has got like a journey of their own they want to go on, and if you fulfill that journey for them, they're more likely to help you in the end of the game. Like that's kind of how Chrono Trigger is set up. So I enjoyed that. The story was good. Like it definitely didn't feel like a 30-year-old story. It felt like something a little bit more modern. And so that leads me to think that, yeah, Chrono Trigger was way ahead of its time, you know? So I enjoyed that aspect of it. There's still like some Super Nintendo jank to it in that it doesn't walk you, like it doesn't hold your hand through some parts, right? And you're just like, okay, where am I and where do I need to be? And they gave you one little hint and you're like, okay, I got to go to this timeline and find this guy basically. And so there was a lot of me kind of trying to figure that part out. I had to use a guide every once in a while just to kind of look up and be like, where am I supposed to go right now? But other than that, I really enjoyed it. It's not my type of game, you know, like I do really enjoy I know we talked about it so many times, but I really enjoy a linear story. Like just walk me through the ideal experience first time around. Like I don't want too much freedom, you know, and that gave me a little bit more freedom than I wanted. But otherwise, yeah, really enjoyed it. It was a great time, and I immediately jumped into Sea of Stars afterwards because I saw all the similarities, like the fact that like when you're walking through the map and if you touch an enemy, it starts a battle like right then and there. That's how Chrono Trigger works. That's how Sea of Stars works. And so I just had a really good time kind of jumping into that. And I'm like 10 hours into Sea of Stars right now too. That's
Nice.
great.
That's very cool. The comparison to Mass Effect 2 may have just convinced me to fire this up on my Mia Mini Plus and play the hell out of it.
Wait, you never played Chrono Trigger?
No. Well, okay. Geez. I played a little bit of it. I played the intro.
You're with a bunch of heathens, inclling myself.
I know.
Oh my goodness.
I got to the point where you like get the frog guy, and then something shiny distracted me, so I ended up not getting back to it.
Oh man.
But I love that. Like the way that you just described it, Russ, is something that nobody else has said. Where you've got this, a team that you're trying to build.
Crew.
In Mass Effect 2. I love that idea. And I was playing Final Fantasy 3 or Final Fantasy 6 on my Mia Mini Plus, but I think I'm going to switch over to Chrono Trigger and play that first.
One thing to add is that like it's all choice too. Like there was a character and there was a dialogue option, and I chose the dialogue option where I was like, no, I don't like this dude. And I was like, let's fight, and so we fought. But I was like, afterwards, I'm like, well, what if I said yes? And so I said yes. And he's like, all right, cool, I'll join. And all of a sudden he's like a character, and so that was kind of cool that like you had like a full on choice in the game to fight the dude or have them actually added to your party.
That's great.
So I played this back in the 90s when it first came out. So I can't, it's hard for me to play that game today just because RPGs and grinding really irritate the hell out of me. And there's lots of parts in Chrono Trigger where it just go too slow. So I have to use the fast forward button a lot to actually play through Chrono Trigger today. But I mean, I was so into Chrono Trigger and I was aware of like how things were that I remember being blown away that they spent data, the package size, just to have a different sprite of Chrono Trigger when he was like leaning against the tree. I was like, oh, they have a new sprite. Oh my God, like that's huge. How many K did they use for that? Like that type of stuff was so big to me. But like even so I'm a huge Akira Toriyama fan. So he has the same archetypes in Chrono Trigger. So you have Magus, who's the anti-hero like Vegeta, and Magus is this like a spitting image of Vegeta, like mood and everything, like how he is. And Frog is awesome. Lucius, like Robe. Every character in there, I don't think I dislike. Probably the one that I dislike the least is the barbarian girl, the prehistoric girl. Like she's just whatever. She's not bad, but she's just like whatever. But the characters that they have and their own arcs that they go through, I was genuinely interested in all of them. And Lucius probably was like the coolest one that I went through, and I also really like Frog just as a character. I don't know. I adore that game so much, especially playing through it. It was amazing to play. If you guys have to, just fast forward through the parts that are just grindy, because I can't tolerate them today. But you got to experience it, especially Frog's theme. Frog's theme is like just fantastic score. Like the score of everything Chrono Trigger is just great, but Frog's theme is really good as well.
There's another game. I can't think of the name of it. It's almost on my brain. Cosmic Star Heroine.
Oh yeah.
Which is very similar to very reminiscent of Chrono Trigger. So if you're looking for something a little more modern to play, that's kind of like that. There's that. There's also, like Russ said, Sea of Stars. But sticking with the retro vibe, Carrie, you've been playing something retro. What have you been playing, man?
So I booted up my old 360, and I'm playing Guitar Hero 2, and for whatever reason, I don't have my save anymore for Guitar Hero 2. I thought I had it. If I was checking my achievements, and I actually did beat Guitar Hero 2 on hard already, so I'm replaying on hard, and I'm finding that, oh man, I never felt old until I started playing Guitar Hero 2 again. I'd never remembered my hands like being like mid song, and like you just have this like on this riff that happens, and I have to activate star power just to get over it because like my meter's like like oh no, star power, get through this, and I can feel my fingers just slowing down, and I see the notes, and I'm just like I know I was able to do this before. It's a disconcerting feeling to like actually feel my age, I guess. So I've been playing like a set a day and just trying to get back into it, and I'll just force myself into like expert mode. But I still have my save for Guitar Hero 3, and I have every song beaten on hard in Guitar Hero 3 except the last one, which is Devil Comes Down to Georgia, and that is insanely hard. And I never beat it back then, and I just kind of like dropped it for whatever reason, maybe like other games that came up. But I want to like just practice again and then see if I can't just get that achievement that I'm deserved and owed, because I already did all the work back then. But yeah, I'm having a blast. I really, there's a hope of mine that Microsoft, because they own it now, they just have 360 emulation happen on Xbox One, because that would be much. I don't know if you guys realize this. I don't know if anyone is powered on their Xbox 360 as of late, but if you have a modern Microsoft account, I'm passwordless on Microsoft, so there is no understanding of what that is on Xbox 360. So you have to get an app password through the Authenticator app, and like putting that through is just a headache. And just being able to get your profile and use cloud saves on the Xbox 360 is a headache, as opposed to just doing it on Xbox Series, Xbox One. So I just wish that they would get it there. I kind of wish that Microsoft would just release a new set of plastic guitars and maybe have like a like a Tony Hawk remake, whatever, and just have like a Guitar Hero 2, Guitar Hero 3 remake. That would be awesome. But yeah, I'm having a blast.
I was going to ask, what controller are you using to play with?
I have a bunch of them. It's the last good Guitar Hero controller, in my opinion. So it's the one that is Guitar Hero World Tour. So it has the 5 buttons, and then it also has the finger part where you can kind of slide up and down. Yeah. So that's the one that I use to play Guitar Hero 2.
I still have my old Guitar Hero 3 Les Paul that I still have around, but I haven't used it in years.
Let me show. Here he goes. If Carrie reaches up and pulls down a guitar,
it's over there. I gotta go. Give me 1 second.
So I had Guitar Hero, and at one point I had a tumor in my hand that they had to take out, and so Guitar Hero was my physical therapy. Like I would every day I would play Guitar Hero for a whole bunch of time to try and get my my finger dexterity back after they removed the tumor from the middle of my hand.
Okay, so I had an import shop near me when I was growing up, and they did not have this in the US. It was called Guitar Freak for the PlayStation 1. And this is a PlayStation 1 Guitar Freak controller. It only has 3 buttons, and that's it. And this is for PlayStation 1. So it has the PlayStation controller right there.
Oh my god.
So this is the Guitar Freak controller that came with the import for Guitar Freak. I should actually play that. I haven't played that in a long time.
I think you should stream it on your Twitch channel.
Oh yeah, just get some PS1 Guitar Freak. Just like three keys. This is nothing. Let me play on expert.
But yeah, I remember that name. Konami had a lot of those like music games, like in the arcades as well.
Exactly. Yeah. So I played it in the arcade sometime in the 90s, and I was like, oh, this is kind of fun. And then I was like, why don't they should come out with this? And then my import shop had it, and I was just like, all right, well, now I have to mod my PlayStation 1 to be able to play this. So it's just a bunch of stuff. But yeah.
You remember you load a PlayStation 1 game, you open the lid, open the lid, you hold the lid thing down so that you don't have to close the lid. You let the PlayStation 1 disc run, then you swap it out when it spins down. Do you remember that one?
There was a backport one that I could put on you had like the Game Shark adapters for the PlayStation 1. They had one that you can play copied games that would do that same function. It gave you a little spring so that you could it would always hold down the lid button.
Yes.
So when you opened it up, it would, then you'd press a button and it would stop spinning the real disc. You'd pop out the real disc and you'd put in a copy.
That's it.
And then you'd start it up. Yeah, that was how you played.
You played copied games, Carrie?
So oh yeah.
J'accuse.
That's like the first time I realized in my life there were, I think everyone kind of has that didn't have that growing up, but I had it in the 90s. I feel like I don't mean to say this like sound like a smug gamer guy or something like. But I'm far ahead of the curve more than a lot of other people. So I feel like people that are getting like ROMs today and like even like 10 years ago, they're like, oh, I gotta get every ROM, and like it's not about playing games. It's just about hoarding as many ROMs as you can. And
cleaning that collection, right? Like the metadata, the file names, the folder structure.
That whole bit, it's the joy of it is just having that many and not actually playing those games. So I had a binder full of copied PS1 games. And it was like, when Thrill Kill came out and trying to go on IRC and get Thrill Kill.
I was going to say, were we on the same IRC servers?
But like,
we probably all were. Yeah.
It's that whole thing. And then I was remembering like when I was going and filling them out and copying all these PS1 games. And I was just like, what the hell am I doing? Why am I doing this? Because I'm not actually playing anything. I'm just copying games. And I just had this binder of games that I wasn't really playing all that much. So then it's like those types of things where I feel like I don't really care about having them all. Like I get them because I have advanced means of getting them. But like that and grinding, I can't do anymore. There's like things that are old that are just kind of, I've had so much of it. I've had my fill of it. It's like I can't even think about it anymore. It's along those lines.
So when I was, talking about piracy back in the day, when I was a kid, I had a Commodore 64, and in my hometown, there was like a software shop that was like in the basement of this general store. Like there were shops underneath there, and this guy just had rows and rows and rows of games where you would go in there and for $2 he would copy a game onto a floppy for you, and then you would go home and you could play that game. I didn't, I was a little kid. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just like, oh, that's so cool. Yeah. But this guy was like straight up running a pirate shop in my hometown, which is crazy that you used to be able to do that. And then when I got older, I got a job at Babbage's, which for people who don't know, it was a video game shop, and they would let us take games home so that we could try them and then bring them back. So I always had access to like the newest games, and I would bring them home, make a copy of it, and then bring it back in, and we would shrink wrap it. And then when customers came in, we could talk about, that game or whatever. But again, I didn't know that what I was doing was wrong. I was just like, oh, you just make copies of stuff. That's that's what computers do. They make copies.
I don't want to digress too far here, but there's a fun little anecdote about that, especially in Europe and in Germany at the time, because the demo scene of like how they were copying stuff was so rampant. Piracy in Europe was just out of control, especially in like Germany and stuff. You can actually trace the origins of Sierra's point and click games as they were getting on and on. They started getting like a stigma of nonsense puzzles. Like they're like, that doesn't make any sense. Why am I combining a conch shell with a rope to make a whatever? And the reason was it can trace back to European piracy. They were like, oh, our sales for Leisure Suit Larry are terrible. But for whatever reason, our Leisure Suit Larry 1 strategy guides are selling like hotcakes. So it's like they're looking at this like sales numbers of game, sales numbers of strategy guides. So then Sierra was just like, okay, well, we'll just make our games super crazy nonsense and just sell strategy guides because people are going to copy the game and they're going to pirate it. So that was like the entire... like you could trace the origins of it, and it's like Space Quest 2 was like the last good Sierra game, because you had oftentimes multiple solutions to a singular problem, so you could like get by with other things that you had in your inventory. So it was just a much better game than Space Quest 3. But anyway, that's a little anecdote about piracy and how it actually ruined point and click adventure games.
Nice.
So let's move on from piracy. Rich, what have you been playing this week?
I've been playing a game called Leica, Age Through Blood. I'm not sure how I feel about it yet, but it is like weird in, ways that I enjoy. So it's like a 2D action platformer, Metroidvania kind of thing, but you ride a bike, like Trials, right? Like the game Trials.
Oh, so, Trials is cool.
Yeah. So you you hold a button to move forward, and then like you eventually get like a button to, not eventually, pretty much within the first 5 minutes, to like turn around, and then you turn around at the right time when a bullet is shooting at you to parry the bullet, and so you have all of these mechanics to like fight the other bad guys while you're on the bike, and it's really interesting, and it has like this Western vibe, and it's like also like Tarantino. Why is that so funny? I miss it.
It's
got a Western vibe, but you're on a bike. It's like
it's like Trials, but it's also like
stuff.
a Metroidvania. Also, it's in the Old West. You're like Clint Eastwood.
Yes, exactly that. Yes, and here's the best part: Tarantino levels of like ultra violence. So like, you just find your friend like tied up by his own body parts, and you're like avenging his murder and stuff like that
on your bike.
On your bike, yes.
Yeah, as you did.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So it's really weird, really strange, but I think I like it. It's just those controls are awkward, right? Like trying to get used to. It sounds
awesome, to be honest.
Yeah, trying to get used to like how to parry, where to angle your bike so that you're not getting hit by the bullets, things like that. It's a little awkward, but I'm enjoying it.
So I've been playing Final Fantasy VII Remake, trying to finish it before the next one comes out. And probably not going to succeed because every time I start playing, I get sleepy. It's just like right now I'm doing these quests where like I don't care about the side quests. I'm just like, I just want to do the story quests. Stop bothering me with this other stuff. So we'll see how that goes. But I also tried the Prince of Persia demo, which is available, I think, everywhere. A lot of people are really hyped for this game, and I think that there's good reason. It's really fun. I've only played the demo, and I haven't even finished the demo because I downloaded it last night to try it out. But I love Metroidvanias, and I feel like this is kind of going back to the roots of that series, although it's definitely modernized. Like I remember the original one where it was just like you're trying to get the frame perfect in order to nail that jump. This is not like that. But it's back to its side-scrolling roots, which is really, really cool. And I like it a lot. I don't know if I want to spend $50 on it right now. Even though everybody's saying how fantastic it is, I feel like I got enough to play.
Yeah. So I'm going to jump in real quick. I'm on board with you, Bill. I don't, that price is off-putting to me, and I'm in the mindset, like I also just picked up Assassin's Creed Valhalla. It just got added to Game Pass. I technically own the physical version of it, but since it's on Game Pass, I don't know, I downloaded it for some reason. I started playing through that a bit. I put in a few hours, and it's decent enough, and I like the whole Viking era, but there's a part of me that I don't like playing Ubisoft games on PC. The whole UbiConnect and PC launcher and all that other crap on there. Even if you buy on PC, it still has to install its launcher and do all of its other crap. I just really dislike Ubisoft games on PC, so I typically only play Ubisoft games on console, just because I feel like that barrier. I feel like I'm still in that ecosystem rather than if I get it on Steam whenever it comes out on Steam. I'm still kind of in the Ubisoft world, just in. I just don't like it. So with the price and how they're doing their whole PC thing, I'm just like, well, let me look at a console. If it drops in price, maybe I'll pick it up. If it gets on Game Pass, I'm 100% going to play it. So I'm in that mindset right now. If it gets down to $20 on like Xbox or PS5, I'll just buy it there. But up until then, I think I'm gonna wait. But I'm excited to play it.
Did you guys buy Metroid Dread? I'm going to challenge you a bit.
I did, yes.
Yes.
I'm
$60, and this is supposed to be better than Metroid Dread.
Yeah, but that's Metroid, and I love Metroid.
I give it a try.
I bought the limited edition of Metroid Dread, but so for me it's a bit of a different thing, only because I would buy the Switch version of Prince of Persia first on any other console, just because I still kind of collect Switch games. So I bought the limited edition of Metroid Dread. I have Fire Emblem, the 30th anniversary. I have like all the LEs of like Switch stuff, and I still have that. So that's kind of a different thing that I'm still like collecting on Switch, just because they still have cartridges, and I feel like they're like the last bastion of actually buying physical stuff.
Yeah.
So that's a different. I think there's some nuance in there that I think is a little bit different.
So,
also,
I mean, you can
think
buy the Switch version for $10 less than Metroid Dread.
That's what I'm saying. Is I would probably buy the Switch version, just to have
Yep.
the physical version, and it runs
I think
great on
that's
Switch.
fair. Yeah.
But then I could also just get it free on Switch.
Oh boy.
boy,
See?
oh boy, what is wrong with
I do
you?
not condone.
Neither do I.
Yeah.
Rich, you
I
do
am
make
gonna
a
pick it
good
up on
point,
Switch, though,
What
too.
were you saying, Russ?
I'm going to pick it up on Switch as well because I want to play it on the Odin. You know what I mean? Like, I think that'd be the perfect handheld to play it on. And I've heard it actually plays really well on the Odin too. So I'm going to get the cartridge, I think. And then that way I have the cartridge and then also I'll play on the Odin.
I'm tempted to do the same. Yeah. I might buy on Switch.
I think I'm going to either get it on Xbox or PlayStation. I don't want to. I'm completely uninterested in dealing with Ubisoft stuff on my Steam Deck.
Yeah, exactly.
And like trying to jump through those hoops. So I'm not going to do that. On my Xbox or on my PlayStation, I can play it on my big screen TV and everything. Like I think that's how I'll end up doing it. As far as me saying I didn't want to spend that much money on it, you make a really good point about that, Rich. But at the same time, I feel like I've reached a point where I'm like there's this nostalgia that I have for Metroid.
Yeah.
That I don't have as much of for Prince of Persia. And I think that's because there's been a lot of Prince of Persia games that just didn't hold up nearly as well as the Metroid games. That doesn't say anything about this particular Prince of Persia game.
Yeah.
But it kind of colors my nostalgia just a little bit and makes it a little bit less than. But at the same time, and I also think that when Metroid Dread came out, which was last year or the year before?
Year before.
I feel like I had more time to play games, and so I was easily able to justify it to myself. Whereas now, every time I sit down to play a game, I'm like, well, I got this video to edit, I got this script to write, I got this other thing that I got to make a thumbnail, and I just don't have as much time. So, like, I'm still trying to finish other games, especially before Final Fantasy comes out. So me buying this now just seems goofy because I know what's going to happen is I'll buy it and I'll play it for 2 hours and I will be like, that was an awesome 2 hours. And then I won't load it up again because I got something else that I have to do.
So here's, I'm going to put a little bit more nuance into it because I think it really does. It's kind of stupid, but
there is a lot of nuance to it.
Yeah. So first off, Nintendo is a super conservative company, and they've always looked at Metroid sales as not really good, despite there being like a core fan base that is like rabid for it. When Grand Theft Auto came to PC, I bought it day one. When Red Dead Redemption 2 came to PC, I bought it day one. And I was trying to vote with my wallet to signal to these companies that you need to come to PC. Don't do any nonsense. Just put it on Steam, put it wherever. Just put it there. And, here's money. Here's day one money. And here's a signal to you that it's valuable to you to do so.
Yeah.
And along those same lines, I do really think that the game is amazing, but they did not release day one on Steam. They still have their Ubisoft crap that they're peddling. For what it's worth, Social Club, Rockstar Social Club, got a bit worse over the years. It wasn't as terrible as it was. Like, at least it like saved all my crap and like logged me in automatically in Rockstar Social Club. And now that doesn't seem to be the case anymore. I've tried installing Red Dead Redemption 2 lately, and it's challenged me to constantly put in my Social Club
so
stuff.
Annoying. Yeah.
And I'm just like, this is this sucks. So like, there's parts of me that the nuance of it is I'm trying to send a signal to Nintendo, who is only releasing on Switch, that Metroid is a series that you should be putting money into to continue developing further stuff.
Yeah.
And me not getting it on Ubisoft side is like, hey, you guys should stop clowning around and just do the right thing and make it less obstructive on the PC side. I could just buy the Switch version, right?
Yeah,
I was also going to Switch version while you guys were ranting. It's coming on Friday.
Nice. I was going to add some nuance too, right? Like, I say that as though like Metroid Dread faced its own like, this is too expensive, right? Like $60 for a 2D Metroidvania. Like there was a whole bunch of that. So there's that as well. And you mentioned the nostalgia for Metroid, and this is a pet opinion of mine that a lot of people are going to disagree with, but I think that's carried the Metroid franchise for a long time, meaning the Metroid franchise is still great. There's still a lot of great entries, but there have been so many good Metroidvanias, indie Metroidvanias that have come out since Super Metroid, basically, up to this point, that like I was a little miffed when like Metroid Dread, a lot of the reception was like, this is the best Metroidvania in years. And I'm like, no, there's Hollow Knight. It's right there. Like there's Hollow Knight. There's, I'm going to blank out on some names right now, but like
Dead Cells. Yeah.
Dead Cells. Yeah.
Axiom Verge.
Amazing.
Axiom Verge
right?
is fantastic.
Yeah. So there have been so many good Metroidvanias that have kind of gone neglected by like to an extent mainstream media, to an extent like the average casual gamer, but like Metroid always has that nostalgia for it, so that's what people are always going to look for.
That's 100% true, but I will say I don't finish games ever.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's very seldom that I finish games. I finished the hell out of Metroid Dread. That game was absolutely fantastic, and it was one of my favorite games the year that it came out. Just unbelievably good. And if people are saying that Prince of Persia, thank you, I couldn't think of it. If people are saying that Prince of Persia is better than that, then that is very exciting to me.
I've seen a number of people say it's top 3. If it were to release last year, it would have been top 3 in their games of the year list for 2023.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'll tell you too, I'm a Prince of Persia fanboy. Like, you know, I never really played the old ones back in the day because they were too hard for me. But when like Sands of Time and that whole trilogy came out on GameCube, loved it.
So good.
I love the Xbox 360, like the 2009 one that's a little bit watercolory looking. It's one of my favorite 3D platformers on the Xbox 360. And so even just the property itself, I'm just a fan of Prince of Persia. So definitely combining that with Metroidvania, yeah, I'm all for it. So
yep.
Yeah, the original Prince of Persia, cinematic platformers. We've had this discussion before. I love cinematic platformers, and I don't think that there's enough of them that come out. And I don't know if they're just too old, but like Out of This World,
Flashback,
Abe's Odyssey. So Flashback,
the modern ones are like Inside, Limbo. Stuff like that.
Flashback is a game that I think people played 2 hours of, and that was it. They didn't actually play any more Flashback because everyone played the jungle level, and as soon as they got to the city, they just stopped. Because Flashback is kind of like Heresy when you compare it to Out of This World, which is like Flashback is like, oh, it's like another version of Out of This World. Out of This World is probably one of the pinnacles of cinematic platformers in terms of forward pacing, of how they're actually trying to be cinema like there's like depth of when lasers are firing this way on a 2D thing and hanging from a ledge and having that alien guy save you, and all of like there's like a choreography to playing that game and the precision of where you are. And in Flashback they only have really cool animation of like gun firing and shells coming off and that type of stuff, but then all of a sudden the game becomes like, just run back and forth back and get some nonsense and just keep on doing these missions and then go to this world and then fight these other guys and then you're in stasis. It's not a good game, but it has a lot of the earmarks of what I think a lot of people loved it just because it looked fantastic for the day. The animations were amazing and it played well, but no one actually ever finished the game. Because comparing it to Out of This World is like, it's different tiers.
Was Out of This World on console? I don't remember. I had it on PC, or I played it on PC.
Yeah, Genesis, Super Nintendo.
Yeah, it was okay. I remember playing Flashback on the Genesis, but I always felt like it's not as good as Out of This World, but that's because it's on the Genesis, not on a PC. And that was me being a little kid, not really understanding stuff.
Yeah. Flashback does action, I think, a lot better, only because there's not that like your gun that could make a shield or fire or super fire, and you had to do the right thing at the right time because there's more of there's puzzly elements in the action part of it, whereas Flashback is just like action.
And there was a lot of memorization in Out of This World where you're like, okay, I go to this part, I know that the purple thing is going to jump out and eat me if I don't duck at this time.
Exactly.
Very Dragon's Lair-ish. if that makes sense.
Yes.
Yep.
But so that's like a hallmark really of cinematic platformers, right? Because part of the reason they're cinematic platformers, it's present in Inside and Limbo too, right? Is that like sometimes that's the point, right? Is that you get to see this once in a game thing, like you get to see your death in that really special way, and then you learn how to pass it. But part of the point is that you see that death animation.
Yeah,
I gotta say, every time I played Inside and Limbo and my character died, I got sick to my stomach.
It was
like the
rough.
way that you die and you're like ragdoll and stuff.
Yes.
It just like as a father too. Like oh my god, that little kid. You know, I'm like tearing up thinking about it right now. That was
it's such a gorgeous
and
game,
that's very
though.
cinematic of a game. You know what I mean? That's pretty amazing. I think that's effectively what they were trying to do.
A core memory for me for Out of This World is when you super blast the thin wall and then the water starts rushing in and you're running for life because of the rock ledge that the whole bit. I love that entire sequence of like flooding to the top. That entire sequence is a core memory for me. Like figuring that part out was amazing. Also the tank scene that you're in, you're like just pressing buttons madly trying to get something to go on. There's a lot of great parts of Out of This World. I miss cinematic platformers.
I almost feel like I want to go back, not go back. Because I don't think that the gameplay itself is going to hold up for me, personally. But I almost want to go on like YouTube and find like the perfect playthrough of
it's like 10 minutes
Out of This World and watch the whole thing.
It's like
I never finished it.
It's a 10-minute video of a person playing through the entire thing, and it's like if you just watch it, it's like it'll keep you on the edge of your seat. Because it's like narrow things of like just the perfect amount of shields that he placed up, but this guy's obviously playing like a pro, so he's just like zooming around, and you're just like, but it's pretty fast, but you can get a real good idea in a very short time just watching the Let's Play of Out of This World. It's still good.
So Carrie, I haven't played this yet, but I don't think you own it, and I don't think it's on your wish list. Lunark, Lunark.
Oh, this sounds familiar.
Yeah, it's a modern retro action platformer or cinematic platformer, excuse me. It looks really good. I haven't tried it yet, but I really want to try it.
Nice. Yeah, I got it. Yeah, 2D setting. Nice. Publish way forward.
Such a great conversation. I just got to say, like, the sun's coming up here in Hawaii. I'm just like listening to old stuff. This is amazing. I'm having a lot of fun. I missed you guys.
You too, man. Wow, this is gorgeous. I love how this looks.
Oh yeah,
especially like
flashback.
I especially like how it's like it's not high resolution. You know what I mean? Like the character's very small and made out of very few pixels. For Lunark, this is really cool. If you guys haven't, if you're listening to this and you can't see it, you can either head over to the YouTube channel and watch it, or you can just go to Steam Powered and look up Lunark, Lunark. Very cool game.
There's also that one that was like on the Xbox One launch trailer that still hasn't come out. The Last something.
I don't know anything about that.
Oh, Christmas.
Xbox One?
Familiar.
Yeah. Xbox.
Well, it's a long time ago then.
It's the one with the really like neon pixel art. Yeah.
It has a bit of what's the word? Controversy behind it because of the developer.
Oh, I don't remember that. Probably for the best.
Yeah, I have no idea.
The Last Night?
I think it's The Last Night.
The Last Night.
Okay.
I don't know the developer, but the publisher is Raw Fury, who they're great. I love Raw Fury.
Is it The Last Night? I think it is The Last Night. But yeah, it opened up and it's a very cyberpunky type of thing, but it has there was also a demo you can play on oh goodness, it's one of those indie websites. It's not the big one, but it's a smaller one. But they had a demo and you can play it. It's a short demo, but it's a cinematic platformer. Yeah, so I don't know. There's I definitely have to take a look at Lunark, and whenever that gets on sale, I should just buy it and play it.
Yeah, that's added to my wish list. So that was a good call, Rich.
Yeah.
Carrie brought up Xbox, and we've got a Xbox Developer Direct coming in just a few days on the 18th. So 3 days from now. So you're watching this on Wednesday, so it's Thursday, so it's tomorrow, I think. And they're going to be talking about Indiana Jones. Avowed, Aura History of the World, Senua's Saga, Hellblade 2. I gotta say, I've seen people talking about Indiana Jones, and they're like, "Ooh, they're talking about Indiana Jones," and then somebody, I think it was Shinobi, said, "Yeah, that game's coming out this year," which that is very surprising to me.
Yeah,
I didn't anticipate that. For Indiana Jones to be coming out this year. That's just a rumor right now. It's being made by Machine Games. I love Indiana Jones. I did not go to the theaters to see the new movie, but my wife and I watched it when it came to Disney Plus.
yeah.
I don't get why everybody hated that movie. I thought it was great.
My wife and I just watched it recently too, and we were just like, this is not bad. This is fine.
Not bad. It was good.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. It felt like an Indiana Jones movie.
Yeah.
I get that people are like, "Oh, there's certain things in there that I don't like," but you know what? It doesn't need to be realistic. In the second one, he jumps out of a plane on a raft. Okay? So get over yourselves, people. But I'm here for an Indiana Jones game.
Oh, absolutely.
Are you guys hyped for this, Carrie?
Oh, so Uncharted is probably my favorite PlayStation series of games. Uncharted 2 is still probably the, like, as in terms of an Indiana Jones games. If you guys never played Uncharted 2, play Uncharted 2 immediately, because that game is amazing. And that has like the hallmarks. I feel, like you look at Tomb Raider, right? Tomb Raider had those same type of Indiana Jones type of flavor. And then also Resident Evil, which had the Alone in the Dark flavor of just getting some stuff to like put into a thing, to like Horcrux it into like a position to like whatever to move forward. There is that type of nonsense adventuring type of stuff where you have the pyramid and curses and stuff where you step on a stone and something happens and you need to keep going. There is that whole flavor that I think Indiana Jones, pretty much like all the tropes that they've made, that I love in video games. So if they could do all of that with the Indiana Jones, IP, I'm like super stoked for it. If they can manage like a 3D action platformer, in the vein of like Uncharted or Tomb Raider, but Indiana Jones, 100%. Just whipping, let's get your whip and swinging. 100%. I'm super looking forward to it.
What percent are you, Rich?
Huge, 100%. But it's not because of Indiana Jones. That was my hesitation. It's because of Machine Games. I really liked the first Wolfenstein that they did. I haven't played the other ones, but I played the first Wolfenstein, and just their storytelling was really good. Have either of you played that one? That first Wolfenstein?
I have, but not completion.
Did any of you see the Jimi Hendrix America? No. Oh my god! All right, I'll send you the cinematic behind the scenes. But like it made me emotional in that moment. You'll have to see it to know what I'm talking about. But it was really good, and so I think Machine Games has some real good chops in terms of storytelling and in terms of like game feel, and so for that reason, I'm definitely looking forward to this.
Yeah, we're getting 10 minutes of game and developer insights, including details about the game setting, story, how you're going to play as Indy, and we're going to find out some more with the first gameplay trailer. So we're actually going to see gameplay trailer instead of just, what we saw last time was just like this slow pan across, and then you see a whip, and then you see the hat, and we're like, oh,
yeah,
right. Russ, are you hyped for Indiana Jones?
Yeah, I mean, I love the Uncharted series, and so anything similar to that would be awesome. It reminds me of Pitfall as well. Like, I've always thought that was kind of a Indiana Jones kind of game too, the Super Nintendo version. And so, anything that's kind of like adventure-y like that is amazing. And so I'm also really looking forward to the Hellblade 2. I actually put about an hour into Hellblade 1 last night. I was setting up my Xbox Series X, and it was the only game I played because like I had to download like these 70 gigabyte games, and that one's only 15, and I was like, fine, I'm just gonna play Hellblade for a bit. And I don't know, like I don't know if that's a good game or not. Like, the cinematics are amazing, but I don't like playing Hellblade. Like, it is frustrating, the puzzles and stuff. You're supposed to, like, I don't know if you guys ever played it, but you have to like align your vision to like a rune. Like, so there's like a rune in the trees kind of thing, and you have to like figure it out. And that is so frustrating. I spend so many times going on YouTube videos to like, where am I supposed to stand and where am I supposed to look so I can get to the next part, so I can actually like advance the story. And so I'm hoping that the game will be a little bit easier to play or more fun to play than it was currently. And I don't know. I love Ninja Theory, and so I love all of their games, but that unfortunately is probably my least favorite of all theirs.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
So we'll see how it goes.
Go ahead.
I just got to grab something at the door. I'll be right back.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
The only thing that I wanted to talk about. So there is a rumor that I read, and I don't know if it's going to be true, but I hope it's true, is that Microsoft got such a good response on Hi-Fi Rush being a stealth release that they're going to look to do another stealth release, and this is supposedly a Double Fine game that will be stealth released on that day.
Oh, wow.
So that is a rumor that I saw pass and go. And I just want to believe it. I don't know if this is true or not, but I just generally want to believe it. Number one, I like Double Fine games in general because they're very high concept games and not terribly long. But Hi-Fi, like I feel like it's a just great buzz in general. Like, oh, sweet, a game that is just talked about now. No one heard anything about it, and we all got to play it that day. I like that element. I like that a lot.
I can't stand when devs announce something like 3, 4, like the example that I always think of is Final Fantasy VII Remake. Like they announced that at
oh my gosh
at E3, and then they every year for like 4 years they came back and they're like, yeah, we're still working on that game. I'm like, don't tell me about it until it's done.
Yeah,
wait until it's done. I don't care if it ships that day, but you know who did this really well was, and I know that people didn't love the game, but when Fallout 4 came out, Todd Howard gets on the screen or on the stage, and he's like, we've got Fallout 4, and by the way, it's releasing in 3 months, and if you want to play something in the meantime, here's that little mobile game that we have for you to mess around with. Like, that's how you do an announcement. You rip that Band-Aid off and you say, and guess what? You're going to be playing this game in a couple of months. I love that.
It makes me think of the GTA 6 thing, like the GTA 6 trailer. I'm like, oh, this looks pretty cool and stuff. And then they're like, it'll be released when your kid's done with college, basically.
Yeah,
it's so crazy.
So I remember there was like a stealth pre-order announcement for the PlayStation 3 at GameStop. There was like a little ad, and I was like, why is no one talking about this? So I went there on the day, and there was just like me and 4 other people. And the only reason I got there was because the Xbox 360 pre-order was such a debacle. Like if you did not get a pre-order from GameStop, you were waiting to get an Xbox 360 just because stock of that took so long to get. So I was like, I'm not waiting on anything. I'm just going to go and pre-order a PS3. And I remember being there in 2005 or whatever, 2006. And there was a dude online, and I was like, what are you getting a PS3 for? He's like, oh, I'm getting it for Gran Turismo 5. And I'm like, I think you can wait a little. And I think it came out in like 2009 or 2010, so like 4 years after the launch. And I'm like, goodness gracious, dude, like you didn't need to be there day one to pre-order, especially when it was $600. Like that was pretty terrible.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He wasn't getting it for what is it? Attack the Crab? Shoot, I forgot the meme now.
Massive Damage or whatever.
Massive Damage.
I played Resistance of Men, and I was like, this is not good at all.
Yeah. What was that shooter that was like supposed to be
the Halo Killer?
Resistance?
Resistance of Men. There's also Haze. Haze has a guy.
It was a one-word title, and I think it was like Bullet Storm or
Bullet Storm was good. Yeah, it was a good game.
Yeah, but that was a PS3 exclusive, right? That was like one of the launch games?
No.
I played it on 360.
Resistance of Men was a PS3 exclusive.
Killzone.
Haze was a first person.
Might have been Killzone.
Yeah.
Killzone. So Killzone 2, there's actually a small little thing here. I always hate to go on these digressions, but Killzone 2, there was a period of time that I was making a YouTube channel where I was just going to why it's garbage. It was just like a totally negative series. I had to end it because
Killzone 2 is a good game.
So Killzone 2 was good, but it like controlled like garbage because latency, because it's forward deferred renderer.
True. Yeah,
that forward deferred renderer was like, I mean, you would press right and like fucking, you would feel how long it took to move right. And the game looked amazing though. It looked absolutely amazing. But I like just drilled into everything that was bad in that game in like a review, and I ended it with like, I pulled up the box and I was like, best game ever, official PlayStation magazine. I was like, that's like saying, great game, love mom. And people didn't like that at all. But yeah, I did that for a lot of other games. I did like 5 or 6 series of that, and I was like, this is just too negative. I'm not going to do this.
Yeah.
Anymore.
Yeah.
I wanted to love Resistance and Killzone a lot, but yeah, I couldn't get into the controls for either of those.
Yeah.
I never played Resistance.
I never had a PS3.
But I enjoyed Killzone 2. And this was after like Gears of War. I think 2 had come out by then. I'm not sure. But yeah, I'd enjoyed some Xbox 360 shooters, and I was still like, oh yeah, this is fun. I like this.
Nice.
Yeah.
So we've got the Xbox Developer Direct. Every year there's a Nintendo Direct in February. Nothing's been announced yet, but do you guys think we get the next Switch announced in February?
So
or are they going to wait till June?
I don't know. For me, I feel like it would be better for February because the Switch released in March of 2017. So I think a March release date would still be good, but then that's still too early. So I don't think they can wait till June for a holiday launch, but maybe they can. I think that they have to get it out there, but there were some people talking and other people mentioning that a lot of people are mentioning the word Super Switch. So people are just generally calling it Super Switch now. And that's entirely due to me. So you're all welcome.
Yep.
Yeah. It's nobody else ever had a Super Nintendo. Nobody else ever came up with this idea of the Super Nintendo Switch.
It's all Carrie.
It's all Carrie.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Thanks, The Rock, or whatever that guy's name is in that movie where it sings "You're welcome."
Oh yeah.
Well, I guess we're going to end on Carrie's grandstanding, and thank you guys for hanging out with us. Carrie, what video are you going to shock the world with this week?
Oh, nothing really. I just released the AYANeo Slide video, which took a lot out of me. I started a new job, so just getting through it. There were some new things that I did there that I was really happy with. There was like an animation on temps and stuff, animation on power use, and I really, really like that. So I'm still trying to work that out for some other stuff to try to get ahead of that. The only thing that I have coming up, I'm going to be taking a look at SteamOS on like a 7840HS NUC, as well as the King Kong 3 Go Kit. King Kong 3 controller, which is just an iteration improvement on that. So I don't really have much in the works right now. I'm still
sounds like a lot to me.
I still have the Steam Deck OLED thing burning in the background, so I have that update coming in February. But that's it for me right now.
What about you, Russ? What's I know you got your CES roundup that you just posted yesterday, which was really awesome. What else?
So I'm kind of a blank slate right now. I was actually coming into the studio this morning to just kind of figure out what I want to work on. I'm just kind of in that post-holiday period for me. And so I might do a Miu Mini Plus guide, like I've got all these scattered, like, oh, here's an update and all this kind of stuff. But I don't have like hey, here's a one video you need if you buy this device. And so I don't know. I just might do that, have some fun getting back to my roots and do an old guide.
You couldn't have that done when I bought my Mini Plus.
No, sorry,
I had to go to all of your different guides and set it up, and now you're going to make it easy.
Russ, the people want to know if Chrono Trigger is going to make it into your top 15, top 10 SNES games when you do that video eventually.
Oh, yeah, we'll see. I think it will, just because I haven't played through a lot of Super Nintendo games. Like it wasn't a console I owned, and so I don't want to be the guy who like says, "Oh, this is my favorite game," and I've never played it, and so it's probably just going to be on the list by default. So,
yeah, fair enough.
What are you working on, Rich?
Yeah, so I should have a news roundup out by the time this goes live, this podcast goes live, that it should be out by then. And then I'm way behind on reviews. This week has been rough. So yeah, the last few weeks have been rough in some ways. So hoping to get those reviews out this week or next week.
Awesome.
Yep.
I put out a video this morning as we record this. It's Monday morning where we're recording this, and it's about the wow, I can't even remember now. Oh,
it's Valve mods.
The Valve and the mods and that thing that's going on with Capcom, which I thought we would talk about today, but we didn't end up getting to.
Yeah.
So check that out. But I also just want to let everybody know that I have a new channel that's all about content creation and like how I sit down and make these videos and all that stuff. And Rich has helped me out on the channel a couple of times. So if you guys want to check that out, I will leave it linked in the description, or you can just go on YouTube and look for Bill Fairchild and you'll find it there. But thank you guys for hanging out with us. And I hope that you all enjoy all of the games that you're playing. Let us know what your favorite games are right now. And we will see you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.
See you guys.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.